Well, hello there, my friend, and welcome back again to the next episode here, the Red Delta Project podcast, live feed Q&A here on the RDP YouTube channel. I'm your humble host, Matt Schifferly, as always, with another video to help you be fit and live free. And today we are tackling one of the most frustrating yet misunderstood concepts in fitness. We're talking about plateaus, whether you're looking at fat loss plateaus, plateaus with performance, plateaus with building muscle. It's one of these things that can often trigger us on a deep emotional level and keep us running around in this very devious cycle of always running around, never making any progress. And it can oftentimes be a very self feeding situation. That's because a lot of times when people experience plateaus, they do one of two things. The first of which is that they are like, okay, I'm not moving the number on the scale. I'm not seeing any noticeable progress. I'm going to radically change everything. I'm going to change my program. I'm going to change what I'm doing in exercises. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to change something to a very high level. And it's understandable where this comes from, but this is often a massive mistake because we want to make changes with purpose, not just making changes for the sake of making changes and thinking to ourselves, I don't know what I need to do, but I know it's not this, what I'm currently doing, so therefore I've just got to change it. And when we make change without any sort of purpose and direction, we're essentially just playing guessing games with our program. We're playing the proverbial whack-a-mole of just trying to hit one thing after another. And as soon as we go after something, then something else very tempting or ideal, quote unquote, pops up. And this leads to a lot of like FOMO or FOBO, fear of missing out on a better option, and just feeling like we're never quite doing the right thing. And we just keep running around and program hopping, which is why a lot of us get stuck in plateaus. Because when we want to get the results we're after and we want to make progress, we need some degree of stability and consistency in our habits. We got to stay on the program. We got to stay with what we're doing. We got to keep trudging forward. And that doesn't happen when you're constantly hitting the reset button on your diet and exercise habits. If you remember back in the old days, back in the old Sega Genesis, Nintendo days when I was a kid, the electronic units, the Nintendo and the video games had a reset button on it. So can you imagine if you were playing a video game and after every 15, 20 minutes, you just kept hitting the reset button? Didn't matter if you were making progress or if you beat the boss at the end of the first level, what you kept hitting reset and going all the way to the beginning. And that's often what happens when we are just starting something new over and over and over. It's very hard to make any sort of long-term progress with that. The second knee-jerk reaction a lot of people have with plateaus is they're like, well, I'm just going to knuckle down. I'm just going to work twice as hard. I'm just going to do everything harder. I'm going to get my diet even stricter. I'm going to put in more time in the gym and more volume and more weight and more. And to a degree, this can be actually work very well because sometimes we are hitting a plateau because we've reached the limit of how hard we're willing or able to work. So you can certainly make some degree of progress with just more work. And especially if you're fairly new to what you're doing, or if you're not doing things to a very high level, that can be a great solution. Because in all honesty, a lot of times when I run into people who are having trouble, especially past the initial stage of losing body fat and building muscle and stuff, they're like, I don't know what to do. And I look at them working out in the gym. I'm like, yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but you're just going to have to put in more elbow grease with this. You're just going to have to work harder because a lot of times, especially folks who come into fitness and they don't have much of an athletic background, they don't have much of a history of really having to push themselves physically and stuff, then they don't have a very good orientation to how hard they actually can or need to push themselves. Maybe they have an emotional barrier there. I've worked with many clients over the years where they have a fear, a very deep fear of hurting themselves or doing damage. So the moment their heart rate starts to spike up, or they feel out of breath, or they feel even a little burn in the muscle, they're like, I'm out, I'm done. Nope, okay, I'm finished. Workout's over, I'm out of here, kind of thing. Because they've just lived the life of low physical exertion. So when you start to exert yourself, it can feel very scary if you're not used to it, if that's not what you grew up with. And Therefore, sometimes you do just need to work harder. You do need to push yourself to a higher level. And there's ways around that. You can hire a coach, you can get a workout buddy. You can also just knowing that, yes, you can certainly push yourself. What you think is your limit of how hard you can push really isn't your limit. Where you think it's 100% is really more like 40% of what you can do. And just understanding that does wonders for you. Even if you don't go to a higher level, knowing that you can is a big, huge, valuable asset in fitness. And sometimes it's hard to understand. It really is. I am very lucky. I grew up at a time and a place where physical exertion was just the norm. I, the cliche of I walked through the snow every day to school. And that's not a cliche. I literally was walking through fields with snow up to my knees trying to get to school because I grew up in Vermont and we had to make our own way to school. I was in walking distance and I hated riding the bus. I always hated riding the bus. So I'm like 30 below and 2 feet of snow. Sure, I'll walk through that because it meant I didn't have to ride the bus. So I was used to physical exertion. I was born on skis and a bike. And I used to race my friends around the neighborhood all the time. So from a young age, I knew what it was like to kind of push myself a little bit. But these days, you don't need to in order to get through in society. So sometimes I will run across people, even adults, who they've never had to push themselves. So they don't know that they need to or what it's like to go to the level they have to in order to get the results they want. So as a result, they're just putting in a lukewarm effort. They hit a plateau really quick. And the best way through that is more effort. However, the downside to just trying to work your way to progress is that you cannot scale hard work. Yes, you can always put in more time in the gym. You can always do more sets and run more miles and make your diet even stricter. However, with the more work you put in, the more you have an exponential cost to what you're doing. The amount of effort that it's going to take you for every incremental bit of improvement through blood, sweat, and tears is going to increase exponentially. And you only have so much effort you can put in. You can only put in so much time and energy. And these are resources that are also running on a short supply these days because they're taken up by other things in your life. So even though you can make some degree of progress through more effort, which can be great, you can't endlessly do that. And the amount of progress you can make through just pure effort is probably never going to be even close to the amount of progress you actually want or need to make, which I'll get into how you get around that a little bit later on. But for now, just know that, yes, hard work and put in more effort can certainly be a very valuable thing and it can move the needle. But at some point, you're just not going to be able to work your way there. You're just not going to be able to work your way to success when it comes to fat loss and building muscle and stuff. You can't do it. It's kind of like someone who's like, I want to make $1 million a year, and they're making $8 an hour down at their crappy dead end job. It's like, I don't care how hard you work. You just can't put in more than 24 hours a day. You just can't do it. And so that's the same attitude we want to take with fitness is you only have so much time and energy you can put in your workouts and put into your dietary habits. And yes, you can certainly put in more work. And sometimes that is the solution for what you need. But in general, in the long term, you just can't work your way there. You have to have something else. So the random changes in your programs and just trying to put in more effort are usually short-sighted approaches and usually ones that just keep you in a plateau even more. Even if it produces some short-term progress, like, oh, I just changed up my program and now I'm making progress again. It's not going to last very long and you're going to plateau even faster because your body will adapt to it. And then you're going to feel like, okay, now what? And then you just end up running around. And that's where people literally will program hop. And I've known people, it's like they have a different workout program like every time I see them in the gym. It's like, stick with something. You got to just stay on it kind of idea. And that is a big thing that holds people back in all areas of success in life is just the idea of, I need to stick to it, even when you feel like you're not making progress. Even when it feels like it's not going anywhere, sometimes you just need to stay on it. which I'll get into strategies here in a little bit, but this we'll get into here, but Guitar James and Beyond is saying, how do you continually progressively overload without using different weights? So this is one of the things that I want to address here, is that our fitness culture, by and large, has sold us on this idea that plateaus are a bad thing, that you're doing something wrong, and that you should make continuous progress. And that's just not how fitness works. Nothing in life works that way. Nothing in nature works that way. And even animals don't grow at a continuous rate. Trees don't grow at a continuous rate. Nothing makes progress continuously all the time. It never happens. There's always undulation. There's always plateaus. And this is 100% necessary. It's kind of a catch-22, but you cannot make progress unless you spend enough time in a plateau. If you don't plateau or you avoid it with everything else, you are shooting yourself in the foot. And the reason for that is simple. It's because the entire purpose behind the adaptations we have in fitness, the reason why you build muscle, the reason why you lose body fat, the reason why you improve your performance, every change you're seeking is done for the sake of getting you into a plateau as quickly as possible. So I address this in my book, Be Fit, Live Free, the fundamental nature of how fitness actually works. We think that fitness is about changing the body and making it different than it was before. But in the eyes of Mother Nature, that's complete BS. I'm trying not to swear too much on this channel here. Your body is not supposed to make big changes, especially continuously, because if it does, it will kill you. The whole point of why we have the ability to adapt and change our body and get stronger and leaner and faster and everything is for the sake of reachieving or maintaining a balance, a homeostasis. Now, a body, a cell, an animal in nature, anything that fails to maintain a degree of homeostasis eventually breaks down, gets sick, and just dies. The vast majority of life forms on planet Earth have gone extinct because they could not maintain homeostasis to some degree or another. So the entire reason why we have fitness at all is because our bodies can adapt for the sake of regaining homeostasis in kind of an topsy-turvy world. Our dietary environment changes, our exposure to functional demand changes. We're living in the plains and now we got to climb mountains, or we're exposed to cold, now we got exposed to heat and stuff. Our bodies adapt to these things for the sake of getting back to homeostasis, aka achieving a plateau. Because if we can't do that, we eventually just push up daisies. So basically plateaus are a survival mechanism, but that's not what we like to hear, of course, in fitness. When we start lifting weights, when we start doing exercises, we create a stimulus. And that stimulus is you better get stronger, you better build some muscle, you better improve your cardio, you better make these changes to your blood, whatever, for the sake of regaining homeostasis under the new circumstances. So in the case here, James, you're talking about continually, progressively overload without using different weights. So remember, your muscles have no idea what weights are or weight training. All they know is time and tension. So if you're curling a 20-pound dumbbell, all they know is I got to generate enough tension in the bicep muscle in order to overcome the gravitational force of this 20-pound dumbbell. And so if you lift a 25-pound dumbbell, then it's more resistance. And you're like, I need more tension. But that's all your muscles know is how much tension am I having to generate? It has no idea you're lifting a dumbbell. It doesn't know you're working out. It doesn't know what you're trying to do. It just knows how much tension do you need me to generate and for how long? That's all your muscles ever understand. And that's why we can get strong so many different ways. So if you're not used to that and you're like, oh gosh, I've got to generate more tension, I got to create more energy substrates in order to be able to do this 10 times, then yes, adaptation will occur. You'll have neuromuscular adaptation. You'll have nervous system adaptation. You'll have mental adaptation. You'll have a ton of different adaptation to make yourself more balanced with that. And once you do, you plateau. Now, a lot of times you'll hear that in our fitness culture. People are like, oh, you don't want your body getting used to it. Oh, you got to change things up because you don't want your body used to the workout and stuff. That's completely wrong. The entire point of all physical training is to get used to what you're doing. If you're not purposely trying to plateau as quickly as possible, aka get used to it, you are going completely backwards in all forms of training. I don't care if you're a ballerina, a golf pro, a bodybuilder, whatever you're doing, plateaus are your goal. That is your number one goal. That's what you're trying to do, because when you plateau, that means your training worked. That means the diet worked. It meant that your body changed to accommodate the new environmental stimuli, and it was regaining homeostasis. Success. If you can't plateau, you're doing something wrong. You have to be able to plateau. Now, luckily, your body is pretty persuasive about that sort of thing. You're not going to have much choice in the matter. But plateaus are the entire point of training. They're in the eyes of Mother Nature. It's not to get stronger. It's not to build muscle. It's not to get leaner. It's not to have a better golf swing. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn about any of that stuff. We care because we've been conditioned to care about those things. But remember, we're not in charge of how fitness works. Mother Nature's the one in charge. She's the one holding all the keys. So we got to live by her rules. And if we don't understand them or we try and fight them, we're the ones who are going to suffer because she's undefeated in that arena. So we need plateaus in order to survive. We need plateaus in order to make progress. Because if you can't plateau, that means you didn't adapt, you didn't get stronger, you didn't get leaner, you didn't improve your performance. Now, the key there is, of course, that's not the end of the story. You plateau, and then James here is asking about continually progressive overload. That's where you're like, okay, now I'm going to lift a heavier weight, or I'm going to impart more demand on my muscle and keep the process going. Now, remember, all you got to do is generate more tension. So to answer your question here, I know I'm going a roundabout way. There's a lot to unpack with this one. I'm going to kind of be off on the rails a little bit here with different tangents and stuff, but there's a lot of things we've got to unpack with this entire idea of plateaus. But you just need to generate more tension and volume for your muscles because that's all they understand. So if you're looking to overload your muscles, you can do this a million different ways. You can go with a bigger range of motion. You can control momentum. You can create just more muscle tension. Okay, so remember, muscle tension does not come from weights. It comes from your nervous system. It comes from you putting it there. So if you just simply flex your muscle more, there's more tension for you. Doesn't matter if it's a heavier weight or not. More tension is just more tension. So being able to have more tension control does a lot for you there. So that's another thing. Being able to stabilize is another one. Being able to control the lift without compensation with other things. So if you're doing, dumbbell curls and you're just using everything else in order to make it happen other than the biceps, making a stricter technique can go with it. It also depends on what characteristics you're trying to progressively overload too. The amount of tension, the amount of time, the amount of control, the amount of stability, the amount of mobility. What are you trying to progress is always something to keep in mind. So when we're looking at progressive overload, though, a lot of people saying, I just want my muscles working harder. It's like, yeah, so do the technique the hard way. I was telling this to a friend, especially in the progressive calisthenics world. We don't want to do easy exercises. We don't want to be able to do 100 push-ups. They're like, can you do 100 push-ups? I'm like, why in the world would I want to do an exercise that's that easy? I want my muscles working hard, and that's not working all that hard. Sure, I can go out for a leisurely stroll, but if I want to really tell my body to get bigger, faster, and stronger, I'm going to have to ramp things up a little bit from that. It's too low of an intensity. So when you're looking at the ability to progressively overload, you want to just basically look at how can I make my muscles just work a hell of a lot harder with the same weight? And just like, how do I do that? Trust me, look for it. You'll find it. A good strategy, if you're using actual weights and stuff, is just kind of take your body out of the picture. So if you're doing dumbbell curls standing, sit down, and you're taking now some of the compensation out of your body. You can tell me all day long you're not compensating, but I guarantee you are. So if you're sitting down and you're basically taking a large part of your body out of the equation, because you're sitting rather than standing, that's going to make things harder. So you can always make it more difficult to some degree. But at the same time, you're probably just going to have to use more weight. I'm making a video on this. Like sometimes you're just going to have to put more weight on the bar or use a harder technique in calisthenics. Sometimes you're just going to have to lift a little bit lighter. Sometimes you'll hear that and people are like, I lifted lighter and I built more muscle. Yeah, because you can get more tension in the muscle because you're not striving for just weight. You're going after the actual muscle tension. So you're improving technique. You're working with more control. You have more stability, more range of motion. You're basically just working the muscle harder. And that's the goal here, especially if you're trying to build muscle, especially, is we're trying to make the muscle work harder. We don't want weight. We don't want volume. We want hard work on the muscle. And the more we strive for volume and uh, weight specifically, like a single metric, the more we can go after that with compensation, which I'll get into a little bit here. I tried to keep this a little bit more in making sense with everything, but I'm jumping around here because there's just so many things to address with this. It's not a case of just work harder or being able to just do more repetitions. Another way to think about it, though, Guitar James, is a lot of times we don't get stronger because we add weight and reps. We add weight and reps because we got stronger. And so I've talked about this in the past where sometimes I'll have a client or even myself where I'll have them do an exercise, but the exercise really isn't done to the best ability. It's like, yeah, you got 10 pull-ups, but those are really sloppy pull-ups. So I'll freeze the workout and say, you're not allowed to do more reps. You're not allowed to add any more weight or any more resistance. We got to work on your technique. And that, my friends, is where you break free of the gotta always work harder idea. Because you can only work so hard. And even though it's like, yeah, technically you can always work harder, you're gonna hit that limit of how much or how much you can work or how much you're willing to work. And you're not going to be able to pass beyond that for very long. It's not a good strategy. So what you do instead is you focus on proficiency, how well you're doing the exercise. And that's a much deeper rabbit hole to plumb. Athletes inherently know this. Martial artists, people who are involved in some sort of skill work, musicians, baking and cooks and stuff. We've all engaged in some degree of skill work throughout our lives. And that's where the real potential results come from, is how well you're doing the thing. It's hard to figure that out on your own, which is why coaches like me exist. Or you can do a little self-assessment. Most valuable fitness app on your phone is your camera. Film yourself doing the exercises. Most people listening to this will never do that. It's too hard. It's just too much of an ego hit to self-assess. Very few people ever want to do it. But I guarantee you, you do that for one exercise a week, you're going to see a lot of places where you can improve. And just that will do wonders for you because proficiency is the ultimate plateau breaker. You can always do the thing better. You can always do it a little bit more skillfully. I've been a martial artist since I was 10. I'm still figuring out ways to do exercises I literally learned as a white belt on day one better. I can still do these things better. And if that's the case, after 37 years of practicing the same technique, we sure as hell can improve upon our technique on everything we've been doing for the past few years in the gym. So proficiency is how we break free of the got to work ourselves harder kind of thing. But another thing to consider is, are you actually really in a plateau or is it imaginary? Is it an illusion? Because a lot of times it is. And there are several reasons why this is going on. The first off is that when we do something new, any kind of new exercise and stuff, we often have kind of a honeymoon stage where our body goes through some rapid adaptation due to the new demand of the new diet and the exercise program. So we start making a lot of progress really relatively quickly in the first few weeks, few months, maybe even over a year. It's like, I'm making progress. This is great. This is awesome. Just know that that is not sustainable. You're not supposed to be able to do that forever. And I know that message out there in our fitness culture rings loud and clear. Oh, you should be losing weight at this rate. You should be adding this much weight to the bar every week and stuff. That's just guesswork. Nobody does that. That never works like that. People are ups and downs and lefts and rights and everything with all of their program. No one makes continuous, slow and steady progress all the time. It never happens. Again, it doesn't even happen in Mother Nature. Nothing works that way. Progress is always a non-linear fashion. You're making progress, and then you have setbacks, and then you're going down, and then you're up, and then you're doing corkscrews and all backflips and all sorts of things along that progressive line. So it's always all over the place. So again, don't feel like, oh, I'm not making slow and steady progress or even continuous progress. Like, yeah, no one does. You don't, it doesn't mean anything's wrong. So don't panic about that. So the honeymoon stage, we always make that initial progress and then we seem to like level off. Yeah, that's how it works. Most of the progress that you're going to get long term is in that level off stage, not the initial upswing kind of stage. So when you are going through the honeymoon period, it feels great, it feels awesome, but that does not last. So when things kind of level off a little bit, that means that it's either time to knuckle down a little bit more, get more serious about it, get some more instruction so that way you can improve your proficiency with it, and make sure that you're getting things dialed in and you're not wasting a lot of time with needless things, which I'll get into in a little bit. But know that the honeymoon period is supposed to end, and also know that the more experience you have, the faster it goes, you'll go through it. Happens all the time in people who try to lose weight, or like figure competitors who start to get lean. Their first show, they're like, okay, I was on this very strict type of diet and I was losing weight slow and steady for 3 months. And then I kind of plateaued a little bit a week before the show. And then I was at my leanest ever. And then I did the show and, I gained some of the weight back. Then when they do it again, they're like, okay, I did the same diet. But wait a minute. I stopped losing weight after like 4 weeks. Last time it was like 3 months. What the heck happened? It's like your body figures it out. It's like, yeah, I know this game. Oh, you're doing this again? Okay, good. Homeostasis real fast now. And then you can plateau and hit it even faster the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And that's why some people can literally change up their diet and exercise habit, experience some degree of progress for literally several days, and then their body's right back into a plateau, because Mother Nature's really good about keeping you alive and say, oh, you're doing this sort of thing again. Ah, I know this. All right. So all those adaptations and stuff, springboard real quick. And that's a good thing. But we see it as a bad thing, because it's like, I'm not losing weight nearly as quickly as much. And that's something that just needs to be observed, is the way it works. Another thing that to pay attention to is, a lot of times a plateau is an imaginary thing because we're only focusing on one metric. So this happens a lot in fat loss communities. People are trying to get leaner and they're hyper fixated on the number on the scale. They're like, nothing's working. I'm not losing any weight. The number on the scale is not budging. I'm like, are your clothes looser? Yeah. Do you feel better? Yeah. Is your energy level higher? Yeah. Is your performance better? Yeah. Like every other metric imaginable is good, 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 good. I'm like, I look amazing in the mirror, but the scale's not moving. It's like, you're not in a plateau. You're basing it off of a single metric that, for one reason or a million reasons, isn't changing at the moment. Don't worry about it. This is why you want to have kind of a wider scope of attention that you're doing on multiple things. Again, it's like, okay, I'm plateaued in this exercise. How do you know? Well, I'm not doing any more reps. Okay, so you're not doing more reps. Is your technique better? Yeah. Do you feel stronger? Yeah. Are you building muscle and you're looking better? Yeah. Like, I've got all these other things improving, but I can't do more reps. I'm like, who cares? You've got 5 things that are definitely improving, and that's one thing you're hyper fixated on. So nothing is going to all change at the same rate. You want to definitely stay focused on many things. And that's definitely something that can keep you out of that panic mode. Because if you're hyper fixated on how many push-ups can I do or how much weight can I lift, then you're going to ignore the opportunities for progress all the other ways, which are many. The other thing is that metric even really all that in alignment with what you truly want? So a lot of times, again, with fat loss, people are like, weight's not coming down. The scale isn't reading any difference. Like, do you want to be lighter or do you want to be leaner? What do you mean? It's like, well, there's a reason why I always call it fat loss and not weight loss, because it's about fat, not weight. We got to stay focused on what you actually want. Same thing in exercise. It's like, do you want to be stronger? Do you want to build muscle? I want to get jacked. Well, then why are you focusing on how much weight is on the bar? Why are you focusing on how many push-ups you do? I thought you didn't care too much about muscle endurance, but you're hyper fixated on that one thing for some reason. And it's because we emotionally assign a single metric to our in totality of results. Like if that one metric goes up, then I'm going to get the results I want. Not necessarily. You can absolutely have the same metric for years and still make progress. I know guys who are like, yeah, I do 10 pull-ups in a row. I've never done more than 10 pull-ups, and I've built a lot of muscle that way. Never more than 10 pull-ups. And same thing with people with getting leaner. Like, yeah, I went from beer belly to six-pack abs. I weigh exactly the same kind of thing, or I don't really weigh all that different. So make sure that the metrics that you're using are actually in alignment with what your goal. If you want to get leaner, measure body fat percentage. If you want to be stronger, then measure the strength of the exercise. If you want muscle, measure muscle. Don't go about it with this roundabout kind of correlated sort of way to actually get more of a true nature on whether or not you are or are not plateauing. And the other thing too is hang on, train of thoughts, a little bit lost here. Sometimes you're not in a plateau. It's just slower than you think. So sometimes we'll have like a bad workout and we feel weaker in the workout, or we had a bunch of salty popcorn and the scale goes up or whatever. It's knee jerk to have an acute change or difference, and we think, oh, it's all gone. Like something's totally off and wrong, even though up to that point things have been fine. You see this sometimes with sports fans where their team will like destroy every game, the opponent in every game the entire season. They have one bad game and they're like, oh, fire the coaches. It's over. Our season's over. It's all done. I'm like, they're destroyed. They're playing. They're having a record-setting season. Why are you upset about one game? And that's often what happens. It's like we have a bad week. We have a bad month even and stuff. You're going to have periods where things go backwards. Just know that about fitness and success in anything in life. You're going to have times when you're going to get weaker. You're going to gain weight. You're going to look softer. You're going to feel like you're going backwards. That happens all the time to everybody. That's part of the process. It doesn't mean you're in a plateau. It doesn't mean what you're doing isn't working. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. It's just the simple fact that things happen. Because plateaus ultimately are kind of relative too. Homeostasis is achieved not by keeping your body the same, but by undulating its condition back and forth a little bit. Kind of like how a boat stays stable in the water by rocking back and forth with the waves. Well, your body's the same way. And that's why a plateau is kind of like a relative plateau. Your body's always changing. It's never actually in a static position. Your body's different now than it was yesterday. And it's going to be different tomorrow than it is now. You're always going to be different to some degree. Fitness doesn't make your body change. It just directs the change that's naturally going to happen. So when you're going through these, quote, plateaus, know that it is largely an illusion. And in a way, you could even look at it and say, well, I'm still at this level. It's like, great. That means you're holding your ground, which can be a big victory in and of itself. Because as I said earlier, you can't make progress until you've plateaued. And I'll get into why that happens here, but let me answer some more questions here. Scott Hughes saying, do you think people confuse plateau with burnout? I think they're plateauing because they're burning out. So getting back to the idea of why you can't just endlessly work your way to the success you want is because we all have a level of work and effort that we can invest in that's non-sustainable. It's attainable, but not sustainable. So getting back to why a plateau is necessary is I love the analogy of like climbing up, high altitude climbing, K2, Mount Everest, all these mountaineers that use oxygen up there and stuff. You can't climb Mount Everest in one shot. If you were to just instantly teleport yourself to the top of Everest, you would get very, very sick and probably die because your body just cannot change that much in one go. So any mountaineer knows that you climb the mountain and you purposely stop. You stop at base camps and you acclimatize. You get your body used to the altitude. And they don't even just stop. Sometimes they go back down a little bit. Most people who climb Mount Everest go up and down several parts of the mountain before they make the final push to the top, because the body needs time at a certain altitude to get used to it or even go down a little bit. And that's the same with fitness. You need to plateau to get yourself used to your new level. So when you're getting into that homeostasis, you may think, oh no, this is wrong, something's bad. Your body's like, can we just take a break here for a second? Like, can we just stay here for just a little bit so I can get used to this? Because you may not feel like much change is happening in your body, but it is. There are changes happening under the hood to get you more used to it so that your body can maintain that new level with less work and effort. And that is essential for your progress. So this is one of the many reasons why a plateau is absolutely essential, because you cannot keep going up the proverbial mountain until you acclimatize to that base camp. And then once you do, now you can keep going up. So that's one of the big reasons why a plateau is great. This is why my strategy on calorie hacking works so well. Most people I know who've achieved anything in fitness to a high degree never do it in a single shot. They have setbacks, they have plateaus, they go backwards, they lose ground. But more importantly, they stay in a plateau purposely sometimes. I have a good friend and client who's lost like nearly 50 pounds at this point through calorie hacking. And the whole idea of calorie hacking is you purposely put yourself in a pretty good caloric deficit. And then as soon as it starts really getting tough and stressful on body, mind, and lifestyle, you purposely take yourself out of the caloric deficit and maintain a plateau, usually for twice the amount of time you were in the deficit for. So his rule of thumb is he'll be in a deficit for like 6 weeks and he'll purposely plateau for 12, because he's getting his body, mind, and lifestyle used to the new dietary habits, used to his new body, used to the stress that it went out. It's got to recover from all of that. And then after that, then he'll go for it. But the other side of that coin is to recognize that, and this is where the burnout question comes in, is that if you're just pushing too hard, you're going to burn out. Yeah, burnout is not something we can avoid if we're pushing too hard. So again, think of climbing Mount Everest. It's attainable, but it's not sustainable. We can get to the top of the mountain. We can't stay there though. And this is why figure athletes and regular athletes at the top of their game will, quote, peak. Like a power lifter I knew, like he gets really high numbers on his bench, squat, and dead when he's preparing for a competition. So he'll train super hard leading up to the competition. He's putting in time and energy and effort to hit those high numbers, but he knows sure as hell he can't maintain that level of effort. It's just too hard. So it's attainable but not sustainable. So that's why they peak at the competition, and as soon as the competition's over, boom, they go back down. They regain some body fat. They get weaker. They regain a lot of the inherent stuff that they fought to lose. And that's because they know it's like, yeah, that's how it works. Sometimes when we see someone on the cover of a magazine or at the top of their game, it's like, wouldn't it be great to be like that? It's like, yeah, but they're not like that all the time. There was a fitness model back in the 90s. And I remember listening to him on a radio show. And he's like, people come up to me and they look at me and they're like, you don't look like anything on the cover of the magazines. And he's like, I never look like that on the cover of magazines. I mean, minus the fact of Photoshop and everything. But he's like, when I'm at my peak for a photo shoot, I'm there for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I'm back down and I lose, like, my 6-pack turns into a 4-pack and I have softer face and the muscle definition drops down a bit and everything. And he's like, yeah, that's how it works. I can get to there. It's attainable, but not sustainable. So when you're burning out, you're putting in a level of effort that is attainable, but not sustainable. And of course, then you're going to plateau because your only strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is I'm going to work my way to success. And you just can't do that. You've achieved as much as you can through blood, sweat, and tears. And that's never going to probably be enough. And it's just you proverbially treading water, just like, I can't maintain this. I can't. Yeah, I know. So you have to make it easier, which is why proficiency is so much more important. Don't do it harder, do it better. Imagine it this way. Imagine if I just gave you a set amount of work. Okay? You can't work any harder. You're limited to 3 workouts a week, 1 hour each, and no more than, let's say, 6 exercises per hour. and you limited that for the rest of your life. Some magical spell got cast on you and you'll turn into a frog if you do more than that or whatever, right? So how do you keep making progress? Well, proficiency. You get better at creating the fundamental stimulus with the exercises that you're doing, because that's the only solution we all face sooner or later. And when we're burning ourselves out, we're trying to work our way to success. And you just can't do it. It's not possible. And when you start to burn out, that's when things not only plateau, but they stand a very high chance of going really backwards, because motivation is taking a hit. There's fatigue in your nervous system. Your body's getting exhausted. You're mentally burning out. So now you're going into the workouts and you're putting in a half-hearted effort. And now you're losing progress. You're not able to focus. You're not able to concentrate. You're not even able to push yourself very hard. So now you're just kind of holding on for dear life. And that's when you're going to lose ground. And that happens. It's going to happen sooner or later. Sooner or later, life is just going to throw you a curveball. And when that happens, just do what you can. Still, know that losing ground is part of the process. I get questions here on the podcast. I had one last week where someone was like, okay, I've got like, I think it was an injury or something, some sort of a limitation. And they're like, yeah, I've got this injury. How do I keep moving things forward? Like, how do I keep moving forward? How do I avoid losing ground? And I'm like, sorry, dude, hate to break it to you, but you're going to lose ground. You're going to get weaker. You're going to lose some muscle. There's no two ways about it. Still do what you can. Work around it. Get what you can. Absolutely. I'm not saying give up, but know that regression and loss is still part of the game. But the good news is, remember, getting back to homeostasis happens faster with repeat bout effect. So if you took, 10 years building 30 pounds of muscle, and then you lost 10 pounds of muscle due to injury, and then you got rehab and you fixed the injury, you're going to gain those 10 pounds like that. You're going to gain it a lot faster, because remember, your body is like, oh, I know what homeostasis is like with 30 pounds of muscle. I don't need to learn that again. So it comes back real quick. So remember that snapping back into homeostasis is both good and bad sometimes. It means that you stop adapting, but it also means you adapt faster and you regain what you've lost. But know that burnout is a very serious thing. Know that it is something that needs to be addressed. And like with plateaus, a lot of people will try to address it with just working harder, or they'll try to just randomly change things up. And you might get lucky and find something that avoids that, but for the most part, it's not going to be a good strategy. You want to take a look at what you're doing and make it more proficient in what you're doing. Efficiency is also a big part of it too. So a big reason, like I said earlier, why people hit plateaus is because they've reached the limit of how much they can work or are willing to work. Well, what if a lot of that hard work isn't really moving the needle very much? Imagine if you go into a workout, let's say you do an hour in the gym, and you're only actually doing something productive for 10 minutes out of that hour. A lot of that hard work that you're putting in is just kind of fluff. Doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. That's my expertise, is cutting out all the fluff that is there. Because when you're trying to basically, again, make hard work your goal, hard work and effort itself is the goal, which means that you'll do anything for the sake of hard work, but not results. I used to be in that place mentally many years ago. I used to love doing stuff just because it would kick my butt. Like, man, this exercise is brutal. I love it. Oh, man, this workout style is destroying me. Oh, I love it. I'm just going to do this all the time. Not knowing what I was actually supposed to do for the results that I wanted. And because of that, most of the stuff I was doing in the gym wasn't doing me any good, but it still was costing me. It was still costing me a lot of time and energy. So one of the ways that you can break out of the plateau is to kind of do an assessment of your program. And again, this is what coaches like me are really good for. And basically take red ink to your program and be like, you don't need this exercise. You're not going to need this. You got 5 different curl exercises. Let's just do one and put it at the end of the workout. Let's focus on doubling this exercise, but getting rid of this, and this. It's like, okay, suddenly my workout's 20 minutes. I'm like, yes. And it's more effective than that hour that you were doing before because now you're actually focusing on what's most effective. So cut the fluff, cut the fat, be very focused. The more you focus on what you're trying to achieve, the easier it is to keep making progress. This is why I always hated following other people's programs because they'd always throw in stuff that was just work for work's sake. I'm like, I don't want to do burpees in the middle of my workout. It's like, what? You don't like burpees? You don't like to work hard? Yeah, I don't like to work hard for no purpose. I don't like to just endlessly like put in toil for the sake of putting in effort. Like that's just wasteful. That's not going to do anything for me. It's just costing me stuff. It's like going into a store and just buying random stuff you don't need when you're broke. And it's like, no, that's not going to do you any good. So getting more focused on the stuff that's going to move the needle for you, and doesn't take as much as you think it does, is a big way to overcome these plateaus and avoid the burnout. So a lot of times we're burning ourselves out just doing needless work and doing stuff that doesn't help. It's kind of like the high school and college football players. The coaches were like, "Oh, don't drink water during practice. It toughens you up." No, it doesn't. It just makes you dehydrated. But they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know of the importance of dehydration. They didn't know that it was bad for us. They just knew it was hard. And when you don't know what you're doing, hard becomes the goal in of itself. So you'd have guys dropping of heat stroke and stuff. And it's like, yeah, all right, good practice. No, it wasn't. You worked twice as hard for half the result because you weren't able to execute the plays very well, and you weren't able to catch the ball as well, and you weren't able to run as fast. And the Florida Gators, down there, they started using Gatorade. People were like, oh, these wusses, they're drinking this sugar water during practice and during games. Those wimps. And you're like, yeah, well, those wimps are kicking your butt because they know what they're doing and they're actually doing things to a higher level. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Another thing you can do to bust through plateaus is look for instability. So instability in both physical terms, mental terms, uh, even practical terms and application can really mess you up because you're only going to be able to move forward when you're on more stable ground. So let's look at this in several ways. Instability, when it comes to diet and exercise, first and foremost, just looks at consistency. Are you just able to maintain your habits with relative ease? Can you get to the gym on a regular basis? Can you get in your workouts? Are you able to just stick to the diet? Sometimes people are like, you know what? This diet is so good, it's so effective, and I can really stick to it if I really set my mind to it. And I really have the willpower and motivation. And life is just, the boss isn't riding my coattails and I have all the energy. No, if you need ideal perfect scenario in order to keep going, you're screwed because you can't ask life to be perfect for you all the time. It's kind of like my friend who was the calorie hacker was telling me one time he had a friend in the military, and they were talking about fitness, and it's like, oh man, everybody in the boot camp and everything are all jacked and ripped and shredded, and it's like, what are you talking about? It's like the military doesn't want some pretty boy bodybuilders. It's like they get guys like that all the time. They show up out of the gyms and everything, and they've got six-pack abs and massive shoulders, and they look like models and stuff, and they're always the first to collapse in basic training. It's like, because we don't want guys like that who are like a classic antique sports car. It's like they need everything perfect. They need everything just right in order to keep. No, we want the old rusted beat to hell pickup truck down on the farm. The guys who can go through blood, sweat, tears, do push-ups in the mud, keep on hiking even though their shoes fell off. It's like we want those guys who just keep going even though they look like crap. It's like that's what the military wants. Well, that's kind of the same thing here when it comes to your plateaus and your fitness in general. It's like, what habits can you maintain on your worst days? If you're like, I've got a great diet, but it needs things to be perfect, or these days it's like optimal or whatever, it's like you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. But that's why you have like, the fitness models and the professional athletes. They literally spend millions of dollars every year to make their entire life and everything in their orbit as perfect as it can be. They hire everyone else to take care of other work they do and stuff so they can just focus on their fitness program. Here in Colorado, down in Colorado Springs, we've got the Olympic Training Center. I've been there and toured it and stuff. It's amazing. But people literally go there going like, I want the best chance of being able to make it to the Olympics and potentially winning a medal. So they literally say, okay, everything else in life is done. I'm going to go live in this place where everything is taken care of for me, my laundry, my cooking, my nutrition. I've got several different coaches. I want everything in a enclosed bubble where I can make it as perfect as possible. That's going to give me the best chance. Again, attainable? Yes. Sustainable? Not a chance. They can't do that for the rest of their life. They're like, I'm going to do this for 5 years and then I'm going to have my shot. But that's not a good plan for most people's fitness program because it's optimal. Most of us don't have a chance of achieving optimal. And even if we can, it's certainly not sustainable. So when we're looking at, burnout and habits, is like, what kind of workout program can you sustain with relative ease? That's why I've got my micro workouts. That's why I've got my double tap training. That's why I've got my micro dieting approaches and calorie hacking. It's not supposed to be something that is optimal. It's supposed to be sustainable. Something that even when on days when you're really stressed and you're tired and you're exhausted and you have little time, I can still do something. I can still stay on track and keep the needle moving forward. Because if your plan needs perfection and ideal circumstances, it's going to collapse like a house of cards most days of the week. So adopt habits that you can sustain first of all. Who cares if it's optimal? Who cares if it's even effective? If it's not sustainable, it's not effective. Full stop. So you need to make sure that if you're having trouble sticking to your workout or sticking to your diet or whatever, you need to change it in order to make it a lot easier to stick to. That's why I created my 3P strategy for healthy eating. Every single meal, I have protein, I have something that's plant-based, and I manage my portion sizes so I eat it and satisfy my hunger, but I'm not overeating. That's really easy to sustain. Hell, most of the time I'm doing that. I'm not even thinking about it. I don't even need to try. And that's why it works, is because it's really easy to sustain. And it's a stable environment for my habits. Stability is also physical, too. So a lot of times when people are plateauing with a particular exercise, I'm looking for where's the instability. If they're doing pull-ups and their legs are kicking all over the place, I'm like, yeah, you don't have a lot of stability in your back. We need to practice some back exercises, some, shoulder articulations or some scapular pull-ups and stuff. We need more stability in your back because the second you start losing stability, you start losing massive amounts of strength and ability. If you're having trouble with stable dietary habits, it happens all the time where people are like, I eat great all week, but boy, the weekend hits and it's nothing but pizza and cheeseburgers and have an IV of alcohol practically. It's like, yeah, no stability. So we need something more stable. Well, how do you do that? Well, loosen up the diet a little bit during the week. Have a beer on Wednesday night. Have a couple slices of pizza on Thursday or whatever. Don't feel like you need to finally, the weekend's here, thank God I made it through, and then you crash. And sustainability is super important, or stability with diet and exercise habits. Let's take a break here. More questions here. Omar, it's good to see you. I'm stuck with the same weighted dips, pull-up squats. What do I do to increase weight and increase reps? So like I was saying before, don't try to increase the weight and the reps. And the biggest reason why you're probably in your plateau is because that's what you're trying to do. You don't, increase your weight and reps. You don't get stronger because you increase your weight and reps. Increase your weight and reps because you get stronger. So what I would do, Omar, is keep your plateau with the same weight. Awesome, stay there. I forbid you from adding weight for the next month. Even if you want to, don't. Look for strength within the reps. Look for strength with that weight. This is what Paul Wade talks about in convict conditioning. Banking strength, milking the reps. So I want you to look for ways to make your muscles work harder with it. Bigger range of motion, number one. Increase the amount of tension in your muscles. Number two, set the tension before you do your exercise and forcefully contract your muscles that are working a little harder during it. Remember, if you put more tension in your muscles with the same weight, that's exactly the same thing as adding weight. So it's the same thing, because it's not about weight, it's about tension. If you put more tension in the muscles, that's doing the thing there, right there. You can also play around with speed in either direction, faster or slower. That can get real interesting. So try it half speed, try it double time. Whichever one is harder, do that. Using more stability, as I was just talking about. So particularly with dips and pull-ups, are you squeezing your back together? Is your body English getting a little out of control? When you do your squats, is your butt lifting up before your shoulders? Are you really getting nice and deep? Are you shifting left and right? Then, folks, record yourself. Seriously, the fastest, quickest, easiest shortcut in fitness is a video camera. Film yourself, because we all have them now in our pocket. Film yourself doing the exercise. And I guarantee you're going to pick up at least 2 to 3 things. You're like, oh, I need to do that better. I need to move this way. I know that. Okay, I didn't realize that's what my squat looks like. Okay, here we go. There you go. That's exactly what you can do to get stronger. Don't increase the weight and reps. Get stronger in the reps first. Then the weight and reps will just come as a consequence. Apex Gemini, good to see you. What do you recommend programming-wise for someone working an intensive labor job? Yes, right, biking to and from work daily and wants to prioritize muscle growth, injury prevention. Yeah, so this is why in my new program coming out, Beautiful Strength, I've got so many different workout variants to it. Because remember, your body doesn't know what a workout is. It just knows physical activity. So if you've got a lot of your resources taken up with labor-intensive work and you've got an active commute on top of everything else, you're not going to have as much as someone who's got a more sedentary approach to things. But don't let that discourage you. History is long shown, like some of the biggest, strongest men from the golden age of bodybuilding had labor-intensive jobs. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco Columbu, and all those guys, they were bricklayers when they were working out at Gold's Gym there in Venice. So they have labor-intensive jobs too. So, work within your means. So make your workouts focused on challenging your muscular work capacity. You may want to look into my double tap training in my new program that's coming out, but I've got tons of free stuff on the YouTube channel here about double tap training. 2 working sets per exercise. You want to make your workouts really focused, but not just volume for volume's sake. Fatigue is not your objective in exhaustion. Physical fatigue and exhaustion is not the objective in your workouts. Your goal is stimulus. So 2 working sets per exercise, 2 to 3 exercises per major muscle group, max. And make sure your diet's on point. Okay? 3 square meals a day, plenty of protein in every meal, plant foods, plenty of snacks. If you're hungry, eat. That's a big mistake that I made back in the day. I had a lot of labor-intensive jobs when I was in school, and that's when my obsessive compulsive and disordered eating habits were at their peak too, unfortunately. So I would try to always eat clean, and I had to eat only so many calories and stuff. And it didn't matter if I was so hungry on the job. It didn't matter if I was really feeling even faint some days. I remember some days I would be done with a full 9 hours, 10 hours of work. And then I'd go hit the gym, and I'd be literally in the gym being like, oh, okay, hang on. Nope. Oh, almost passed out there. I'm good. It's like, dude, oh God, man, go eat a sandwich. Better yet, go eat a pizza. You need the calories. So make sure you're getting plenty of food, getting plenty of sleep and rest too. Don't stay up late scrolling and playing video games and stuff. Sleep is super critical for you right there, Apex. And make sure, like I said, give the double tap training a shot. I got podcasts here, I got videos. Just search on my channel, double tap training, and that will help you stay focused without too much excessive work as well. Stay hydrated too. Omar is following up saying, what's better, low reps or high reps? Yes. High volume, low volume, intensity, frequency, which helps you crush a plateau more? Whichever one you're probably not doing. So this is the preview of the video I'm working on right now that's going to be on the channel. Is that it's very tempting to think like, especially when it comes to building muscle, that it's about strength or it's about endurance or volume. Now, as people say, same thing. And it's all about it's about neither. It's not about volume. It's not about strength. It's about challenging your muscular work capacity, and your ability to do that takes a lot of mental focus. It takes a lot of fortitude and motivation. And no matter what level of workout you're in, it's just going to plateau because your mind just gets bored with it. It gets stale because you've got to be able to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because it's not just physical homeostasis that causes plateaus. It's also mental, even emotional homeostasis. So that's why if you're striving for strength, you're probably going to break through with a little bit more volume and higher repetitions. If you're going after rep chasing, you're like, I do 50 push-ups. I'm like, put on a weight vest. Use archer push-ups, gymnastic rings, dips, whatever. Like, let's get some weight on you. Let's get some more resistance. If you're going for volume, go for intensity. If you're going for intensity, go for volume. And make sure it's a noticeable difference too. The big mistake I used to see, it's more in the day, but I used to do this too, where it's like, okay, now you were doing 10 repetitions for a while. Now we're going to change it up and do 12 repetitions. Ooh, high volume. No. When you make a change, make a change. Okay, we're doing sets of 8 before. Now we're doing sets of 20. Oh, we're doing sets of 20 now. Now we're on 5x5. Make it a big noticeable change. Make it a big delta, big change. And that's going to create a stronger stimulus rather than fine tuning things. People do that a lot with diet too. Where they're like, okay, well, I'm trying to lose weight. So on my sandwich today, I had low fat cheese instead of regular cheese. And I'm like, oh man, don't split hairs. Go for a big change. As long as you're challenging your muscular work capacity, you're going to create that stimulus. And you could do it with high volume, low intensity, higher intensity and stuff. Got a big range that you can do. And you can stick with the same thing perpetually, for sure. If you're in a groove and you're feeling like something's working for you, well, then don't change it. Just keep going. The idea that you need frequent changes in your workouts and stuff is more of a marketing tactic to get you to buy more stuff that you don't need. A lot of guys I know who have been successful in the gym, they're like, yeah, I've been doing the same workout routine for like 5 years, 10 years. And they might change it up. It was like, okay, instead of Romanian deadlifts for 5x5, now I'm Romanian deadlifts for sets of 12. Instead of push-ups, now I'm doing weighted push-ups. Now I'm doing regular push-ups for higher volume. They're not really changing a whole heck of a lot. And that's that stick-to-itiveness we need. That's the stability that we need in order to do things and keep it moving forward. Because you don't want to compromise your long-term results with just the short term. Because I know when the short term, it feels good to change things up and make big differences as far as like your total workout programming, but you got to make sure that's fundamentally the same sort of thing, that it's still getting the same stimulus. And also make sure that you are using methods and exercises that you have an inherent benefit in doing in the first place. Because the fact of the matter is that for a good long training career, like let's say you're going to be training pretty hard for the next 40 years, you're not going to make much noticeable progress for most of that time. It's just the reality of it. The ideas that you hear about, like, oh, my body's changing so much and I make so many gains and I've lost so much body fat and stuff, that's beginner stuff. Again, that's the honeymoon period stuff. That's only in the first, several months to maybe even a couple of years that people are experiencing. But you follow anybody, go on your social media, pick anybody, any fitness influencer, and just scroll through their feed, their history or feed. You're not going to see a whole lot of change over the past several years. That's because most of us just aren't going to change. That's because you're going to only go so far, and then you're going to be chipping away at that change little bit by little bit, which is great. But you're just not going to make all that much noticeable progress once you get past a certain level. And if you do make that progress, it's going to take so much time and effort. Again, it's going up to Mount Everest. It's something that you can attain but not sustain. So that's when you peak, or that's when you really go for it. But it's not something that you can sustain for a long time. And that can be a very liberating thing. I once heard a podcast of a guy who was always like, he was like kind of the world's most interesting man sort of deal. It's like, gosh, you're so good at so many things. Like, how is somebody like this? And he's like, simple. I only really devote myself to any single thing for about 5 years. I give whatever I'm trying to do, play the guitar, building muscle, um, learn a language, whatever. It's like I give it a really good hard effort for about 5 years. Because after 5 years, I know I've used up most of my potential in that endeavor. Like I'm not going to get a whole lot better past that level, whatever I'm at after 5 years. It's just not going to happen. I've had a good coach. I stayed to it. I had a good program. After 5 years, I've got most of what I'm going to get. Now, then there's the question, like, can you always improve? Absolutely. But he was like, I took up golf seriously for 5 years. I got pretty darn good at golf. But I knew that if I really dedicated myself and I spent a ton of money and I put everything I had, I'm still never going to be good enough to be a scratch golfer. It's just not in the cards for me. So at that point, he's like, okay, I still like playing golf. I play a few times a year. I took a golf vacation in Hawaii, but it's like, I'm not going to invest more time and energy in that thing anymore because I got what I can out of it. I'm going to maintain most of it with just simple maintenance habits, but now I'm going to put my time and energy into other things. And it's the same thing with fitness. Like, it's not supposed to be this big, huge, lifelong endeavor for most people. The best thing that I've always, the best compliment I've had with several clients over the years is when they leave me because they're like, Matt, I pretty much got what I can out of this. I'm pretty much throwing in the towel. I'm not going to give up. I still have weights at home. I'm still going to work out. I'm still eating healthy and stuff. But yeah, I've got most of what I can achieve from this. I'm going to put my time and energy towards other things. It's like, great, good on you. Because fitness it's my lifelong endeavor because I'm a coach in it. But I'm sure as hell never going to be a professional athlete. I'm not going to build like an insane fitness model body. It's just not in the cards. Can I get better than who I am now? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Most times, no, because I know what that takes. I've been there in several disciplines. I've been there in my bike racing career in college. I've put in that level of work and effort. And I was like, great, that was a lot of fun. I spent 4 or 5 years getting as fast as I could on the mountain bike. And I got a lot faster. And I won bike races in club level, in the amateur level. And it was a lot of fun. But after about 5 years, I was like, yep, I'm not going to get a whole lot better at this. I can always get better, absolutely, but it's just not worth it anymore. I'm going to be a recreational bike rider now. Now I'm going to put my energy and attention into something else. And that can be a wonderful, wonderful thing that you can attain for yourself, because it does not take a whole heck of a lot when it comes to diet and exercise to attain some pretty good results. That's why I created my ultimate minimalist fitness program. Very quick ebook over on Red Delta Project. It's only 3 strategies. It's like these 3 strategies will basically take care of a base level of strength, mobility, health, and diet and weight control for the rest of your life. And it's 3 things that don't require hardly any equipment, no real special skills. It's for those who are like, I just want to be in shape and I just want to get the thing taken care of and done and over with, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, yeah, that's what that program is all about. Ultimate Minimalist Fitness Program for people who don't want to spend their life in a gym or have a diet that's so high maintenance it becomes like their identity and stuff. Because there's a hell of a lot more important things in life than diet and exercise. Omar is following up saying, so could you do 10 sets of 5 heavy, 5 sets of 25 light? Or an example exercise, for example, barbell squats, but one will work endurance and the other strength. Exactly. Yeah, you're going after different objectives. So always remember, when it comes to the fundamental nature of neuromuscular conditioning, you've got endurance, muscular endurance, basically lightweight, high repetitions, just burning the hell out of the muscle. Then you've got strength on the other end of the spectrum, heavy, low repetitions. So now it's about the generation of muscle tension. And building muscle is anywhere along that spectrum where you're just pushing your muscular work capacity for how much your muscle can put out in a few hard sets, basically lifting close to the failure of the muscle. Not cardio failure, not technical failure, it's failure of the actual muscle itself. And the muscle tissue is having trouble producing force output. So yeah, go for it. And then it also depends on just how much is, your priority for your objective, that kind of thing. Usually I stop 20 repetitions is my upper limit. Yeah, can I build more muscular endurance and stuff like that? Sure. Do I care? No. So I'm not going to do it. But yeah, you can change things up like that. Shamar, it's good to see you. Hey, Matt, any advice on patience when it comes to building muscle and strength, especially when there's an urge to see results immediately? Yeah, because that's another thing about the messages in our fitness culture that are through marketing versus reality, is that we're often told that results just come faster than they really do. Not to mention that when it comes to muscle, a lot of times it's easy to fool ourselves, where people will, basically they start doing some muscle training, you get some inflammation, and you start eating more, you maybe put on a little bit of body fat. You certainly feel bigger from that, but it's not muscle, it's water and a little bit of fat mass and stuff. It's like, oh, I'm building muscle so fast. No, you're not. It's an illusion. And yeah, a lot of times it also depends on your scenario that you're working with. How fertile is your soil, so to speak? When I was in college and bike racing, I did little to no strength training at all. I weighed 150 pounds soaking wet. I put a photo on my Instagram of what I looked like back then. I mean, I looked like a Muppet, Grover arms and everything. And then shortly after college, I was like, okay, bike racing thing is done. And I completely did a 180-degree change. I went from riding 2 to 3 hours a day to 2 to 3 hours a week. And I went from a really strict low-fat diet to a seafood diet. Seafood and I eat it kind of thing. And yeah, I put on like 15 pounds of muscle in 6 months doing that. And I was strength training like most every day. So yeah, that was fast muscle growth because my muscles were just starving for that. Nowadays, though, I mean, no. After 30 years of training, I'm not going to make gains like that. Of course not. So it slows down the more of your potential that you use up. But a lot of the message in our fitness culture is all about those newbie gains. We think that's normal. It's like, no, it's the initial stage. And then after that, a few pounds a year. Unless you're going after something that's new and fertile again. If you've been following a really strict diet and suddenly you're like, okay, I'm going to just no longer diet, that can spark some growth. Because the last part about breaking plateaus that I wanted to address is that a lot of times when people are in a plateau, it's because they're trying to make progress through a single influence. Like, I'm just trying to do as many push-ups as I can. I'm just trying to eat a lot of protein. I'm just trying to put more weight on the bar. I'm just trying to cut back sugar as much as I can. It's like, okay, all these things are great for getting leaner and building muscle, but every influence you're doing only carries so much weight. It's only going to do so much for you, and it's probably not very much in the grand scheme of things. That's why you want to have a multi-influential approach. So if you're looking to build muscle, it's like, yeah, reps are important. So is recovery, so is sleep, so is diet, so is intensity, so is technique, so is tension control, so is 100 other things. So the more different things you can bring into the picture, the better off you are. But when you're trying to maximize your results through one little strategy, I'm just going to cut back sugar as much as possible. Yeah, you can make some initial gains with that, but it's only going to carry you so far. In which case, you're going to also probably compensate for work around that thing. And then you're going to plateau even faster. It's like, oh, I found a way to finally eat junk food without sugar. Like, okay, well, now you're back to eating a crap ton of calories. Of course, you're not going to be losing any weight because you're only going after one thing. Take as many pieces to the puzzle as you can. You don't need to change it all at once. By and large, when you find people who have a good amount of success in these areas, they do it kind of piecemeal. It's like, I started to cut back on junk food a little bit. Oh, and then I cut back on alcohol. And then I started to eat more vegetables. Then I started to eat more protein. Then I started to make sure that, I was eating when I was hungry and not just stressed or bored and stuff. So it's one thing after another. It's not all at once. You don't need to radically change everything around. It's like, I'm just going to focus for the next few weeks on not eating too much processed food or something. It's like, okay, just that one thing. Well, shouldn't I do X, 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 that? No, no, no. Don't worry about it. But I'm still smoking. I don't care. I don't care. Go ahead, smoke. Smoke for the next, and we'll tackle that at another time. You don't need to overhaul everything about your life. Just get some protein at every meal for right now. After a few weeks, you plateau with that, right? Because it's like, oh, now it's relatively easy for me to get protein, protein in every meal. Boy, emphasis on the wrong syllable there. And it's like, okay, now it gets easier, right? Okay, now what do I do? Okay, now we can look at maybe cutting back on the smoking or whatever. It's like one thing at a time, because the more things you can stack on top, the bigger the results will be. And it's a hell of a lot better. My man Joseph Bello following and say, Matt, want to improve my technique and grow my legs a little more. Fantastic. So again, my friends, film yourself. Just seriously, film yourself. I have the advantage here because I'm always staring at a camera. Either in the podcast, I make my YouTube videos, I'm listening to myself when I'm editing them. I'm always looking at myself. The other day, I posted a video of me doing step-ups with dumbbells on a box. I'm like, I'll just do this video real quick. I looked at it. I'm like, that's what my squats look like? Oh, man, I've got like 5 things right there I can fix. There you go. Film yourself. The most valuable app on your phone is your camera. Use it. Film yourself. Just that will do wonders because you'll see what your technique is like. And especially if you're using unilateral training, like you talked about lunges and stuff like that, you're going to see a difference between your right and left side. Like, oh, even because you don't know what you really are doing, how it feels. I do these rear flies, all the time, and I still find myself on videos. I'm like, damn, my right arm is still bending. Like, yeah, I could swear that arm was locked out and straight. And then I'm looking at the video. I'm like, no, it's definitely bending. Okay, I know it's humbling, and that's why most people will never do it. But I'm telling you, that's going to tell you a lot to record yourself when it comes to technique. You will see it very plain as day. Satya, good to see you. I want to reduce my fat, currently stuck in the same body shape and weight. How to do it? You got to be in a caloric deficit. Check out my book on calorie hacking, or wait for my next book to come out on the 4th of July, which includes a chapter on calorie hacking. That's the strategy I always implement for decreasing body fat. Because that's a way to not only lose weight, but to keep it off. So calorie hacking, that's over at the link down below, reddeltaproject.com. But the thing you can start to do right now that I always tell people, whenever it's like people are like, I just want to start decreasing, I'm like, go after your liquid calories first. I don't care if it's smoothies. I don't care if it's a healthy protein shake or no liquid calories, if you can. And always remember, you've got to make changes that are relatively easy to sustain. But that's where I usually tell people look to that first, because those are the easiest calories to cut out, because they don't really affect your hunger and satiety very much. They're almost always a ton of sugar and a ton of calories, and they're relatively easy to replace in many instances with lower or no calorie alternatives. You're a big soda drinker, diet soda, seltzer, right? It's just no calories. So it's a big swap right there. But it's crazy how much you can consume from liquid calories. I was eating an ice cream sandwich one time in the gym, and one of the trainers there was like, how can you eat an ice cream sandwich here? You're setting a bad example for clients. Blah, 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 blah. I always said, no, I'm setting a great example because look at me. I got 6-pack abs and I could still eat ice cream because I know what I'm doing. But I was like, yeah, but you got your Starbucks Mappo, Frappo, Laco, Licino, and then 12 pumps of whatever on it and stuff. She's like, no, this is coffee. I'm like, no, that's dessert. And I looked it up on the website. I'm like, calorie-wise, sugar-wise and stuff, that's the equivalent of 5 of these ice cream sandwiches. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you're eating 5 of these right now if you drink that. I'm like, you get those every day? She's like, sometimes twice. I'm like, 10 of these then. It's like, that's because it's such a big thing you can make a dent. So yeah, Satya, I would definitely look to liquid. I don't care if it's healthy. If it's got calories, don't drink it. It's a smoothie. Who cares? No calories in liquid form. That's the first place I usually have people go with for right now. But yeah, check out calorie hacking. It's much easier and much more in alignment with lifestyle and everything. You can probably find tons of free stuff too on my channel here. Seriously, just look up calorie hacking on my YouTube channel. You'll probably find the general gist of it. You can look up the ebook. You'll probably got podcasts here, but check that out. Zendrin. Oh, it is. Didn't quite read this. Zendrin. Basically, my life story. You're totally right, Coach Matt. If you exhaust one solution, you can't go anywhere. Yeah, you hit a dead end. And that's, I guess, the big thing that we want to recognize with plateaus, right? It feels like a dead end. It feels like we hit a dead end. Well, I don't know about you, but if I was ever playing one of those video games and I hit a wall, I don't just keep walking into the wall. You turn around. Sometimes this is why you got to go backwards a little bit. And then you find a different way through the maze, because fitness is always a puzzle to solve. No one knows from start to finish how to do this. No one. No one's got the game plan on how to go from where you are now to where you want to be. Not a single human being can reliably tell you what exactly that's going to take. Certainly not me, not my new program that's coming out, nothing. It's always going to take some trial and error. You're going to hit some plateaus and dead ends. You're going to have some setbacks, and you're going to have periods where you're going to feel frustration. It's part of the game. Know that you're on the right track when that happens, because those who never hit plateaus are the ones who aren't taking consistent action, who have no stability, who aren't really doing anything. They're spending all their time doing research and everything. So if you're like, I've hit these plateaus, I've hit these dead ends and stuff, it's like, great, you are way ahead of so many other people out there. Most people would be much better off in your shoes. Oh, I was losing body fat. I lost 30 pounds and then I plateaued. Well, hot damn, congratulations. And I don't say that sarcastically. I mean, literally. You know that most people will never do that? Good for you. That is awesome. Congratulate yourself when you hit plateaus, because it means you are far ahead of everyone else there. Scimitar, it's good to see you again. My wife, 66, wants to get stronger and in better shape. Congratulations to your wife. I thought to use overcoming isometrics to teach her the mind-muscle connection. Smart move, genius, beautiful, wonderful move. Absolutely, Scimitar. Overcoming isometrics is the strength training method I think, by and large, most people should be employing on a regular basis. I know I'm a calisthenics guy. I have nothing against any other thing, but by and large, most people are not athletes. Most people are not fitness buffs. We're not fitness junkies. We're not gym rats. We're just normal, average people who have a hell of a lot better things to do than work out and worry about eating right all the time. And in that case, it's like, I want to build my body to be more resilient. I want to build strength. I want to do it in a way that doesn't interfere with my lifestyle. I want to do it in a simple way that I can do anywhere with very cheap equipment, in a way that just takes me 10 minutes or so at a time. Isometrics. Isometrics will do that for you, especially if you're beginning and especially if you're kind of nervous about things. It's one of the big reasons why I give people isometrics who are kind of timid about weight, because there's nothing to emotionally attach to. I love isometrics. Every time, like, I don't experience it so much these days, but sometimes women, they used to be like, I don't want to lift a big weight. I'm going to get big and bulky. And thank God that myth is dying these days. I don't run into that very much these days. But I used to teach, classes 20 years ago or so, where, I have a woman in class, she's doing deadlifts with 10-pound dumbbells. I'm like, let me dump you up to the 15s here. Oh, I don't want to get too big and bulky, kind of thing. It's like, no, that's not how that's going to work. But sometimes I'd just be like, well, how about the 12s? I'll pick my battles. But with isometrics, there's no number there most of the time. So they're like, okay, now how? Then they're gripping it. They're doing the equivalent as if they were deadlifting 180 pounds, but they don't know it. So they're bypassing the emotional limitations, because so much of plateaus and the limitations we run across is our own mind and in our own heart, how we feel about the exercises. And one of the biggest, hugest, most grandiose, wonderful things about isometrics is it overcomes those mental and emotional limitations, which is why so many people, even if they've been training with weights and stuff for years, they get into isometrics and they're blasting through plateaus like crazy. I'm like, what in the world? It's like, well, they're overcoming the limitations, which is why, it's a play on words, my title, Overcoming Isometrics, because overcoming isometrics is a type of isometric training, but the stuff I talk about in the book is about overcoming your limitations that are holding you back. So I could have maybe called it Overcoming with Isometrics. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out that title, but yes, absolutely, Zenitar. Get her going on the isometrics. 3 exercises, no more than that to start off. I'd recommend something like a hack squat, a row, and an overhead press. My 2 cents. Kind of like the Prometheus program in Dragon Doors, the Ultimate Isometrics Manual, but a little bit more dialed in. I think it's a little better. Joseph following up saying, Matt, should I just keep using my 20-pound dumbbells on my lunges or should I put more weight on them? So here's what I would do, because you were asking about technique and everything like that. So here's the interesting thing about volume and intensity is that when you increase intensity with more weight or volume, the technical weaknesses show through. So I would do 2 things if I were you, Joseph. One is I would record myself doing bodyweight lunges for 3 solid minutes and see what happens. It's going to be telling. 3 minutes is a long time to be doing lunges. Then, maybe in a separate workout, maybe because you're going to be tired, then do lunges with 30-pound dumbbells if you've got them. Go heavy. Get enough weight that when you do that first lunge, you're kind of like, oh boy, that's heavy. Heavier than I'm used to. Good. And do it for like 10, 12 repetitions. See how your technique changes onto those. It's going to be very telling either way. Range of motion is going to be different. Your mobility is going to be different. Your stability is going to be a little different. You grab onto those dumbbells and you may notice your knee kicks out a little bit. Videotape yourself doing both. Heavier weight and low weight, higher volume. See what happens. Because sometimes one of the best ways out of a plateau is just kind of a bite off more than you can chew strategy. People are like, I'm stuck at this plateau. What should I do? Kind of thing. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, lunges with 20-pound dumbbells. Try 40s. What? That's great. How do? Exactly. You got to be safe about it, obviously. Don't be stupid and feel like you're taking a crazy risk. But man, the number of times when someone would be like, I can't do that. That's insane. There's no way. I can do that. That's really not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I'm like, exactly. Because again, the mind, how we feel about something, kind of like that when I was talking about back in the day, I don't want to lift more than 10-pound dumbbells for the deadlift. I'm like, I guarantee you, I could give you probably 50-pound dumbbells and you'd be fine. So sometimes we just got to bite off a little more than we can chew. Sometimes if we're trying to lose body fat, I'm like, yeah, sure. Try a day of intermittent fasting. Try and see what happens when you have an apple and some yogurt for 1 meal a day. See what happens. Sometimes it surprises you. It's like, oh, wow, that was hard, but it wasn't more hard than I thought it would be. And I did that all through college. Like, I can't ride more than 15, 20 miles at a time. 20 miles, maybe 25. Then I'd go out with some friends and like, we're riding 80 miles today. I'm like, what? And at the end of the day, I mean, I'd be really tired, but at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh, damn, that wasn't too bad. Oh, hell, we'll probably get 100 miles before the end of the summer. And then be like, we're doing 100 miles next week. Okay, we're doing 100 miles next week kind of thing. Get around people. This is a big thing when it comes to breaking plateaus. Get around people who get you out of your comfort zone, who really level up in that way. That's been a strategy I've employed many, many times. I've skied since I could walk, but for several years I was skiing with a couple of friends over here at Winter Park, Mary Jane. Mary Jane is just all hard terrain. There's nothing flat. There's almost no groomers. It's just hard terrain. And I would ski with them, Mary Jane, for a couple of winters. And it's just hard to keep up with them. They were way better skiers than I were. And they didn't give me that much coaching. I was trying to do what they did. And then one day I was skiing with my lifelong buddy who hadn't seen me ski for a couple of years. And suddenly he was like, holy hell, dude, like, how are you skiing like this? Where did this come from? I didn't even know I was making that much progress. But he's like, I'm having trouble keeping up with you for a change. It's like, yeah, because I'm working with people who are on a higher level. It's you get around bigger fish, you become a bigger fish, proverbially speaking. Scott Hughes saying, Matt, if you're the thin man, version 4.0, is the extra calories okay? I can look up calorie hacking too. Yes. Yeah, it's a good baseline to think about too here, folks. If you're playing around with calories, get online or get some apps and stuff and see if you can get a general rough estimate of your base metabolic rate. That's a good number because usually when people start hacking out calories and getting lower and stuff, I usually say don't go too much lower. Don't go lower than your base metabolic rate. And of course, all the calculators are estimates, so take like several of them, average them out. But yeah, go with that sort of thing, and it'll get you a good baseline of how low you can relatively go, and then use that as a baseline for how much you're hacking towards. Micah is coming on. It's good to see you as always. What about fast twitch muscle trains? Supposedly that is what you lose the older you get. Yes, power, explosiveness. I used to work at a gym that had definitive classes, and we had a power training day. I think it was Tuesdays. All the exercises were about power, explosiveness. And my boss was always saying, it's like, the older you get, the more you need this sort of thing. Now, I don't think you need an entire class with 7 different exercises in order to do it. That's why in Beautiful Strength, my upcoming program, I've got a little bit of power training in there. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing like exhausting or anything like that. It's just a little bit. It doesn't take much to maintain or even to build power training. You don't need to go off to get a speed coach and a power coach and all that sort of thing. You just need a few sets a week of something done for speed. And that's literally all it really takes in most cases. But yeah, we lose that when we get older. We really do. And that's one of the reasons why I include it in Beautiful Strength, because Beautiful Strength is not just about how you look in the mirror, it's how you look with movement, and posture, and body language. And things get real ugly when you basically look like someone who's lumbering through life. You lose the spring in your step. You look old. You look tired. You look haggard. But if you're someone who's got that little bit of pop, you look younger in your movements. And it's just naturally more attractive. It follows up saying, I weigh 225, mostly muscle and athletic. I can do gymnastics, backflips, parkour. Yeah, so you're not short on power. I find it very hard to consume over 160 grams of protein a day. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So it's, generally if you're getting protein at every meal and in snacks and stuff, you're probably pretty good. Throw in a protein shake or whatnot, but there's always the idea of how much do you need. So I'd say if you're satisfying your appetite, you're not hungry, and you're getting a good amount of protein in each meal, then probably pretty good there, Micah. I have been talking your ear off, folks, for over an hour and a half. Thank you very much for coming on in. Again, the audios for these are always posted on the podcast directories within 24 hours after these live feeds. But thanks for coming on in, folks. Always a pleasure to have you here. Don't forget my new book and program, Beautiful Strength, How to Use Calisthenics to Level Up Your Attractiveness. Pre-order now on Amazon. Link is down below. It is coming out 4th of July, so that's less than 2 weeks away. Paperback, Kindle, and the PDF will also be available over at reddeltaproject.com, as well as all the other resources I mentioned in today's episode on the link down below. Calorie hacking for controlled, sustainable fat loss, my ultimate minimalist fitness program, overcoming isometrics. And remember, I've got a ton of free stuff over here on the YouTube channel. I have no idea how many videos I've got, but it's well in the thousands on every topic. So you can do a quick search and find whatever you want. And if you don't find something you want my help directly, don't forget my micro coaching is available over at reddeltaproject.com. It's just $10 and you can have me do anything. I can assess your technique. I can assess your program. I can just answer whatever questions you have in a timely manner. So those are resources all on the links down below. I will talk to you folks next time. Thank you very much. Till then, be fit and live free.